From the Detroit Free Press in the heart of the Motor City, it's Monday, September 21st. Here are today's top stories, presented by Bush's Fresh Food Market. Bush's has over 4,000 Michigan products, including the freshest fruit and vegetables, meat, seafood, and baked goods. Stop by one of Bush's 16 locations for the personal service you expect from your neighborhood grocer.
For the Detroit Free Press, I'm Kerry Jr. II. Judge Cynthia Stevens of the Michigan Court of Claims made a big ruling Thursday. She ruled that absentee ballots will be counted if they're postmarked no later than November 2nd. That means ballots could be counted for days after Election Day. Free Press reporter Paul Egan has additional details. Paul, thank you.
Hi, Kerry.
We have some new information about absentee voting coming up this November. What do we know?
Well, a judge made an important ruling. She said that ballots that arrive after the polls close still have to be counted as long as they were postmarked the day before the election, right up to the day before the election. Under the current law, absentee ballots are only counted if they arrive up until the time the polls close at 8 p.m. on Election Day. So basically, this gives another 14 days for ballots to arrive as long as they were postmarked the day before the election. The decision was made in a lawsuit brought by Michigan Alliance for Retired Americans. It's a nonprofit set up by a lot of the large unions, the UAW, AFSCME, the teachers' unions.
How does this change the landscape of the general election coming up in November?
One thing it does is it would ensure that every vote is more likely to get counted. The other thing it could do, though, and this is a concern even for state election officials, is it potentially increases the likelihood that we don't know the results on Election Day. If a large number of ballots are coming in to be counted after the polls close, then there certainly wouldn't be a result on Election Day. And many people are concerned about that from a standpoint of, what happens during that period of uncertainty. And so, today you actually had Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson saying, yes, this is great that every ballot's going to get counted, but please, everybody, let's get your vote in as early as possible. Return your absentee ballot, whether you're mailing it or dropping it off at the clerk's office. Get it in early. Then we don't have to really deal with this issue of ballots coming in after the polls close.
From the primary election in August, were their ballots all counted? Is that what partially led to this decision as well? How much of that election influenced how we're going to engage in November?
It was a record absentee vote, and in Michigan, they've estimated that there were more than 6,000 ballots that came in the mail after the polls closed and were not counted. So, we're talking about out of several million votes cast, but 6,000 votes is still a significant number of votes. And so those ballots under this ruling, which could be appealed, by the way, this may not be the final word on this, but those ballots would have been counted under this ruling, and they were not counted in the primary.
What is the next step for us to know what absentee voting will look like in November?
There's a similar case already in the Michigan Court of Appeals related to this issue of whether late arriving ballots can be counted. So there's definitely going to be some kind of ruling by an appellate court, and it very well could go to the Michigan Supreme Court as far as this issue of counting ballots that arrive in the mail after Election Day.
Free Press reporter Paul Egan, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you, Kerry.
Michigan colleges continue to navigate the pandemic, and at Grand Valley State, health officials are ordering students to shelter in place. The order came Wednesday and requires students to stay at their on-campus or off-campus residence for 2 weeks. Ottawa County officials say there was a recent spike of 600 cases among students, most of whom live off-campus. The order went into effect Thursday. Students are allowed to travel to get food, attend classes, seek health care, or work at an essential job. Students are not permitted to travel to their home community. Here are the coronavirus case numbers. The state reported 483 new cases of the coronavirus and 15 new deaths Saturday. 12 deaths were uncovered in a review of death certificates. In total, health officials have reported over 115,000 COVID-19 cases and over 6,600 deaths statewide. That's the latest. For more information on COVID-19 in Michigan, visit www.freep.com.
I'm Kirkland Crawford with the Free Press Sports Department and a look back at this weekend. On Saturday, Tigers manager Ron Gardenhire retired, effective immediately, citing health concerns. While you may look back at his record and say he was the worst manager in Tigers history in terms of winning percentage, he has actually instilled the right principles as the franchise continues its rebuild. And speaking of rebuilds, it may be time for another one with the Lions. They jumped out to a 14-3 lead on Sunday at Lambeau Field, but Aaron Rodgers and the Packers had the last laugh, pulling away for a 42-21 win. The Lions fell to 0-2 on the season, have lost 8 straight divisional games and 11 straight overall. And it was the 4th straight game in which the Lions led by double digits and then went on to lose. It is getting increasingly difficult to see light at the end of the tunnel for the Bob Quinn, Matt Patricia regime.
For more stories from the Detroit Free Press, be sure to check out freep.com. That's FREEP.com. If you're a fan and want to support our quality local journalism, subscribe. Go to freep.com/special offer.